And welcome back to another episode of Locked On Chiefs and Locked On Raiders. We are doing a crossover episode. This is a crazy one considering where the Raiders and the Chiefs are in the division right now. Not something we are used to for sure. Thanks for making Locked On Chiefs and Locked On Raiders your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. This episode of Locked On Chiefs and Locked On Raiders is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family from the community can come together. A big thank you to our friends at McDonald's for always being there. I'm loving it. Q, you have to be loving it right now because this is a completely different scenario for you guys than you've been in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean it's a good scenario, but it's a weird scenario. It's an emotional scenario. I mean, it's a whole lot rolled up in one, Chris. And so yeah, it's strange territory right now. But I'll tell you, looking at the AFC West just as a whole, that body, man, every team having 5 wins is incredible, and so it's pretty fun. I will say that. All the off-field side stuff aside, which I know we'll talk about, it's a lot of fun so far this season in the AFC West.
Yeah, it is, and you're right. All the teams have 5 wins. That's very rare, and I do think that it's going to be interesting to see how this, this division continues to stack up throughout the rest of the season. But you did bring up the off the field stuff. Do you want to talk about that really quick? You guys have been dealing with a couple of things over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's been major, and it goes back about, almost a month now. It started with John Gruden stepping down, resigning after his emails rolled out, after the Washington football team was being under investigation. Then all of a sudden, he's the one who ends up losing his job. And it's like, okay, nothing to see here. Story's over. So that's still strange. It's still up in the air. It's weird, but hey, it is what it is. I'm not defending anything that he said in those emails because they weren't good, but it's just strange that he was the only one that ended up really paying a price for that. But that's a whole nother story because then it gets serious. Then the Henry Ruggs situation happens. Former first-round pick, number 12 overall in 2020, gets into a fatal car accident where he ends up taking the life of a young woman, 23-year-old, here in Las Vegas. And that's just really got the community really on edge, and not really on edge. That's probably the wrong word. Just really in an emotional state because it's just sad when a life is lost senselessly. And that's what that was with Henry Ruggs. And now, as 22-year-old as he is, he's not lost his life, but he's thrown his life away as far as what he knew, his career, the lifestyle that he was used to living, his family. It's just never going to be the same for him, regardless what happens. So that happened. Then, hey, let's just go ahead and make matters worse. And your other former first-round pick in 2020, Damon Arnett, number 19 overall, he gets released or waived on Monday because the guy has a video that's released, and apparently the video is about a year old, but he's running around the house with multiple guns in his hands, telling people to come over so he can kill them. And then, puts his address on this social media site or whatever to invite this guy over. It's just foolishness and silliness and ridiculousness and a bunch of bad decisions by a bunch of young dudes that have a lot of money and a lot of opportunity and don't know what they just threw away. So both those guys are gone now. So Raiders are just like, whoa, what in the world's going on? So here we are today talking about this upcoming game on Sunday. You got an interim head coach and multiple players that used to be on your roster are no longer there. It's a strange time, Chris, strange time in Raiderland.
Well, and you also are dealing with a team that's coming back from losing against the New York Giants.
Yeah.
That was a surprising loss. Although, if I'm honest about it, I think there's a little bit more – it makes a little bit more sense to me than I would think normally, and that's because of the Henry Ruggs situation.
Right.
That has to weigh on a team. That has to weigh on the players.
It does. And you could see on Sunday that Derek Carr didn't look like he was quite himself. He missed some balls that normally he hits on. But, the name of the game, unfortunately, is you've got to go out there and you've got to compete and you've got to operate. You've got to handle your business. And they didn't. And the New York Giants, as you very well know, covering the Chiefs, you saw what the Giants were able to do against the Chiefs on that Monday Night Football game where they just didn't look like they were good enough to win, but you saw that they had a little something to them. They could compete, and the Raiders allowed them to hang around. The Raiders did not capitalize in the red zone and ultimately lost the game. So, you got to give the credit to the Giants for going and handling their business, and you've got to also look at the Raiders and say, hey, you got a lot that you're dealing with, but at some point, man, you got to step up to the plate, and they weren't able to step up to the plate on Sunday. So here we are. The Raiders are sitting there at 5-3, and like I said, every team in the division has 5 wins.
Yeah, and it's crazy because Kansas City is now sitting at 5-4. With the way the season started, I didn't know that they would get above 500. So I have to say that I'm kind of happy that they're there. But we do need to get down to the nitty gritty. And when we get back, I will be asking you questions about the Raiders, and then we're going to flip it, and you're going to ask me questions about the Chiefs.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I look forward to it, man. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Again, like Chris said at the top of the show, this episode is being brought to you by McDonald's. They've been proudly serving community since 1965. And McDonald's, for me, has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family all go to reconnect. I mean, it's where classmates go if they want to study, if they want to break it down, if they want to, learn the math and English and just figure things out. And oh, by the way, have a little bit of French fries and some McFlurries on the side as well. It's where I see a lot of little leagues go and football teams go to kind of relax and chill. And again, have a lot of really good food. And even if you're on the road, if you're having a long road trip, how many times do you look up and look for the golden arches? I know I do all the time. I was like, yep, boom, there you go. That's the spot to go. So McDonald's, again, has been a really good community outreach spot, a place where people in the community always go since 1965. So check them out today. Of course, you can get anything you want at a very affordable price. And I love the experience that I always get when I'm at McDonald's. And I'm sure you do as well. You have great memories at McDonald's. Matter of fact, might even have a locked on NFL party at a McDonald's. We might just have to put that together sometime. Maybe we'll do it this weekend in Las Vegas for the Chiefs and Raiders game. Who knows? But just check them out today. McDonald's, of course, as always, I'm loving it. What else I'm loving is Get Upside. And Get Upside is an app that anyone who drives a car, anyone who needs to get gas needs to have. All the listeners of the podcast network, the Locked On Podcast Network that we are part of, are making up to 25 cents per gallon of gas every single time they fill up. All you got to do is download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play and do it right now. If you use the promo code Touchdown, you'll get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill. So that's up to 50 cents a gallon cash back. No need to pay full price at the pump anymore. Get your cash back using Get Upside. Again, download the app for free and use the promo code Touchdown. You'll get up to 50 cents a gallon cash back on your first tank. People that are driving a lot, well, they're making a lot. $200 to $300 a month in cash back, and there's no catch. Cash back gets added right to your account, and any kind of account, bank account, PayPal, e-gift card, Amazon, other brands, doesn't matter. Download the free Get Upside app, use the promo code Touchdown, and get up to 50 cents a gallon cash back on your first tank. That's promo code Touchdown. The app is Get Upside. Make it happen, and make it happen now.
All right, Q. So I have to ask this question just because when you start game planning for a week, you start game planning that right after the game is over. So in my opinion, at least, the Raiders went into this Giants game thinking they were going to have Henry Ruggs early in the week, and then all of a sudden they're not going to have him. So that's going to change their game plan. How do you think that really affected this team? How do you think it's going to affect them going forward? Not having Ruggs, who is their big speed guy, their over-the-top guy, and then also losing Arnett as well. Although I know it's not near as big of a piece as Ruggs was, but I still think it affects the team.
Right, it does. It affects the team in a major way because, again, that was one of your guys that you were in your locker room with. And this season has been a very tight-knit group. This locker room has been very tight with each other. They all genuinely have a lot of love for each other. And I know a lot of teams say that, but you can really see that this year with the Raiders. And so losing Arnett is just it's another player. He wasn't a starter. He wasn't really contributing a lot. So that's one thing. But Ruggs, like you mentioned, man, that is a big deal. That's a guy with a lot of speed and a lot more speed. He can take the top off of defense. When the Raiders drafted him, John Gruden, who's no longer the head coach, obviously said that's their Tyreek Hill. And you know what Tyreek Hill has done to the Chiefs offense and how much he's a part of that Chiefs offense. Now Ruggs was never, ever involved as much as Hill is, but it's the same concept. That speed really opens up things for a team. And so that was evident on Sunday that wasn't there. The Giants were not going to allow the Raiders to get them with the big play, and they didn't have to worry about a speedster like Ruggs taking the top off the defense. So they were able to really focus in on Waller. They were able to focus in on Hunter Renfrow and the other guys, Brian Edwards, and they just were able to make sure and not feel like they were worried about getting beat deep because that defense and that speed wasn't there. So the defense was able to capitalize. So yeah, that was something that was major. The Raiders have signed Deshaun Jackson since then. He's got speed. He's going to probably play in a handful of snaps, but I mean, he's 34 years old. He's had some hamstring issues. So, he's not going to be the factor that Ruggs was, but he'll be a factor. He'll be a guy that at least brings a little bit more speed to the team.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought him up because I was going to ask my next question about him. considering he just signed, I agree with you. I think he'll play a couple snaps, but I can't imagine he's going to be out there for very many plays.
No, I don't think so. And I mean, if you go back and see what he did with the Rams, it wasn't a whole lot of anything so far this season. I think he's only, has a handful of catches, but he does have about 200 and something yards because, well, usually when he catches the ball, it's a big play. So I
Right.
think you'll see him out there. He's a 14-year vet, and he's not going to be up to speed on the whole playbook, obviously. But I think as a 14-year vet, Derek Carr could tell him, hey, man, this is your responsibility on this play. Just go ahead and run a 9, run a 6, run a 7, and then he'll know what that is, and he'll find a way to get open. I do believe he's really good at running routes, but he's not going to be the Raiders' first target. Probably won't be the second or third target. He'll just be another player added to the mix. So I like the speed that's added. I like the veteran savvy that's added, but to think that he's going to be a big-time contributor and volumes, that would be silly. So he's not going to be that guy.
Yeah. Now, one thing that is a huge deal to me, at least when looking at this Raiders unit, is their offensive line completely changed this year.
Yeah.
And Kansas City did the same, but it's a little bit different, obviously, in Kansas City. What have you seen from this offensive line so far this year? Kansas City hasn't put a lot of pressure on teams, but they're starting to get home at times. And it looks like they've moved Alex Leatherwood from right tackle now to right guard. When did that happen, and how is that looking so far?
Yeah, the offensive line, the reconstruction of it has been it's been one of the big subjects of the whole offseason, preseason, training camp, everything leading up to the start of the season, and it's been a work in progress. It hasn't been seamless. It has been at times downright bad. And like you mentioned, Alex Leatherwood is drafted to be the right tackle of the future. And after a few games, he was kicked into guard because he just wasn't cutting it at that position. And ultimately, that's probably his best position is guard. And it's been better. He's still struggling when it comes to pass protection. He's doing a lot better in the run game. Their center, Andre James, was terrible for the first few weeks of the season. The last 2 weeks, he's played a little bit better, actually a lot better, and so I could see him getting better, but it's just been a weird thing, man. Richie Incognito was supposed to be the starting left guard. He hasn't played a down. Denzel Good was supposed to be the starting right guard. He tore his ACL in the first game. So, I mean, it's one thing after the other. Brandon Parker's the right tackle. He's been a turnstile his whole career, but he's playing better. So I think Chris is still a work in progress. It still has a lot of ways to go, but you can see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. At least it seems like they're starting to gel as they head into week 10.
Yeah, and I will say this, it's going to be a very big test for that offensive line because Chris Jones has been moved back into defensive tackle. Jerron Reed, I think, is going to play better with Jones next to him. So I think that's going to be something to watch is how that interior takes on the Chiefs' defensive tackles. Now, when we flip it over to the other side and we start looking at the defense, this is where I really, when we did our crossover episode during the offseason, the one guy I wanted was Maxx Crosby. And I still think that if I was going to pick somebody off this Raiders team, it would still be Maxx Crosby. What have you seen from their defensive line that has really changed everything? Because the Raiders last year didn't get much pressure at all. Now they're getting a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's been night and day. It's been a complete difference. And really, Maxx Crosby, I'm glad you brought him up. He's, to me, has been the leader of the defense. He really, really worked his tail off during the preseason and training camp. Something I noticed being there at the practice. I said he looks faster, and he's on record of saying that he doesn't drink anymore. He's sober now for like 18, 19 months. Him obviously he's following in Darren Waller's footsteps. I also think that the signing of Unique Ngakoue has helped out a lot as well because now they have nice bookends that do two things very similar to each other. They both get to the quarterback very well, and they bonded quickly. So Ngakoue pushes Crosby. Crosby pushes Ngakoue. If Crosby gets 2 sacks in a game, Ngakoue wants to come back and get 2 sacks. If Crosby is defensive player of the week in the AFC, then all of a sudden Ngakoue wants to be that guy. I mean, they just push each other in a great competitive but friendly style, and I think that they've been really good for each other. And Gus Bradley's scheme, the defensive coordinator now, the Raiders, I mean, it's the front four get home. It's not blitz, blitz, blitz. It's the front four get home or you don't. And so far for the Raiders this season, those two guys, Ngakoue and Maxx Crosby, have been really good at getting home, getting pressures, and getting to the quarterback.
And I keep looking down, and I'm sure people are wondering what I'm doing. And I'm sitting here looking at the injury report because I think it's always important to look at who could be available and who may not be available. Is Jonathan Hankins going to play this week? And do you think Nick, I can't ever say his last name.
Rukowski.
yeah, that guy. Do you think either of those guys are going to be available this week? Because I think that they both really help the defense. And I know Hankins can be somebody that is very difficult to block in the middle.
Yeah, I do think Hankins will play. He's been battling injuries kind of off and on throughout the course of the season. I do think he's going to end up being a go. Kwiatkowski is a guy that I'd kind of be shocked if he plays. Now that I said that, he'll probably play. But I mean, it's one of those situations where he's not really the number one guy at this point right now. When they signed him as a free agent, he was expected to be. But now that the scheme has changed and it's a different defensive coordinator, it's no longer Paul Guenther, it's now Gus Bradley. He doesn't really fit exactly like he did in a Paul Guenther scheme. So he's still a good contributor. Don't get me wrong. He's still really good against the run, but he's just not out there as much as he used to be. So I think that he probably, if he's still banged up later in the week, is still kind of, being limited or whatever, they'll probably hold him out just to hold him out. But they have KJ Wright. They have Corey Littleton. They feel good about that. Denzel Perriman's leading the team in tackles. I mean, those three dudes, as far as linebackers, are really giving the Raiders defense a big boost from what it was a year ago. Because, man, it was atrocious a year ago. And now they're at least playing some good ball. They're not the liability. They're not the reason why the Raiders lose games. They lose games because they ultimately don't succeed in the red zone. I mean, at least that's what it was on Sunday. It wasn't because the defense just couldn't play very well. So I think that they'll be fine as far as the linebackers go. But Kwiatkowski, I probably right now would lean to he probably won't play on Sunday.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm really curious to see Hankins play. I think it's going to be a very good matchup against the Chiefs' interior of the offensive line, but I'm sure we'll talk about that here in just a moment when we get back. Q is going to ask me some questions about this Chiefs team and how I see this game going and what I think about this team. But first, let me tell you about our friends over at BetOnline.ag. They're back and they're better than ever. A new web interface for the start of basketball season, even more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From football, basketball, baseball postseason, which is over at this point, but there's going to be stuff coming when you're starting to talk about free agency, NHL, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the games start. All right, Q, go right ahead, man. I'll let you dive in.
Yeah, man, I'm ready. I'm excited about this. I'm excited about talking Chiefs and Raiders. As it's Sunday night, it's prime time action. I mean, it doesn't get too much better than that. You got the 5-3 Raiders and the 5-4 Chiefs trying to rekindle that old school rivalry that lately, honestly, hasn't been much of a rivalry as the Chiefs have really dominated. So
yeah, and I've been trying to think, when was the last time this game meant so much at this point in the season?
It's been a while. It's been a long while.
I mean, no offense against the Raiders. No, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, no, you're spot on because I mean the Raiders won, in Kansas City and Arrowhead last season, and then went back to Allegiant Stadium, and I thought they had a chance to win that game, but Patrick Mahomes pulls it out at the end, and obviously there was no fans there either, so the intensity and the energy wasn't there in the stadium. So it's been a while, man, and again, with them being so close, with them both having 5 wins, and the Chiefs haven't had the season that we all expected them to have, and the Raiders are right now sitting there with 5 wins. I mean, it is for something and it means something. And I know Raider fans aren't going to want to hear that, but it's true. It's actually playing for something now. So I'm excited about it. It's the first matchup of the season between the two teams. Of course, we'll do it again later, but man, the Chiefs, let's start with, the obvious. They're 5-4. I don't think anyone thought that they were going to lose 4 games. I don't think that Patrick Mahomes has played the way he's played at all so far in his career until this year. So what has been, in your opinion, the biggest reason for the stumbling out of the gates and the fact that now that they're on a 2-game winning streak, it looks like they're starting to kind of turn the corner and get back to normal play?
Turnovers. That's what it comes down to. Kansas City leads the league in turnovers. I believe still after week 9, didn't have any turnovers in week 9. They won the game. They did have a turnover against the Giants, but they still ended up winning the game. But that's been the story. They've averaged 2.5 turnovers a game, and you can't win in the NFL turning the ball over that much. And Mahomes has had some that have, bounced off of receivers' hands, and he's, had one that bounced off of receivers' helmets. I mean, the different stuff that, in years past, it was falling to the ground and the ball wasn't bouncing that way. So I think part of it is that you're going to start not having some of those turnovers because I think eventually it's going to reverse. And then the other part of it is they have to just, they have to hold on to the ball better. I mean, you have to be in a situation where if you get the ball thrown to you or you're running with the ball, you have to make sure you're not going to fumble it. And, Travis Kelce had a fumble a couple weeks ago. Mahomes has fumbled a couple times already. That is what has killed this team over and over and over again. I think that they beat the Chargers when they played the Chargers if they don't turn the ball over 4 times.
Right.
But when you give the Chargers 3 straight possessions where you turn the ball over 3 straight possessions, you're never going to win that game. That's the reality of the NFL.
Right. No, you're right. And the Raiders turned the ball over 3 times against the Giants, and, well, they lost.
Yep.
Was that? So, yeah, you're spot on. You turn the ball over, you're going to, more times than not, you're going to lose the game. Now, I heard Patrick Mahomes say that at certain points in games, he starts pressing when the team's not playing the way that they should. He starts putting more responsibility on himself. Why is that he's pressing like that? Because to me, it feels like something he's never done in his career.
It is something that he's never really done in his career. I think you look at different things this season that they've dealt with that they have in the past. I really hate going back to this, but if you look at what they had last season when it came to the offensive line, it's a completely different offensive line this year, and I think that's a big part of it. But I don't think Mahomes has trusted his protection the way he needs to. If you look at the game against the Packers, he finally started moving in the pocket as opposed to busting out and trying to run or getting clear of the pocket to be able to throw the ball. He just moved around and shifted in the pocket. So it looks like he's starting to believe in his protection. And that's a huge key. If he can believe in his protection and he can stay in the pocket, I think that they're going to be seeing very good things from him. One of the stats that is just killing Kansas City right now is he has the worst stats when you look at throws after 2.5 seconds after the snap. It's something like, his completion percentage is around 50%. He's got like 6 interceptions and 4 touchdowns. I mean, it's just completely different than if he is throwing the ball before 2.5 seconds. So if he gets to the back of his drop and the ball comes out, better things are happening. It's when he's holding on to the ball that he's having all these issues.
Right. And one of the big priorities for the Chiefs in the offseason, it didn't really come about the same way the Raiders offensive line reconstruction came about. I mean, the Chiefs, they went out and made a priority to change that offensive line after what happened in the Super Bowl. Yep. And is it just a matter of, similar to the Raiders, they're still trying to gel, they're still trying to find themselves? Or do you see issues with that offensive line? Like, maybe this isn't it. Maybe there needs to be some different talent along that O-line.
I think that there's a possibility that there needs to be different talent at left tackle. I hate saying that 9 games into his career in Kansas City, but Orlando Brown is not your typical left tackle that Kansas City's played with in the past. He's not fleet of foot. He's not a guy like Eric Fisher that can get out in space and go, get a linebacker 10 yards downfield. He's just not that type of lineman. And right. The other problem is that when you put him in positions where you need a guy that can go do and pull and do that kind of stuff, he's failing at those. And that's partially bad coaching because you're putting him in a position to fail to begin with. So I do think that it's possible that maybe they need to look at something else for left tackle going forward. But if you look at Joe Thuney, who's played fantastic, even with a broken hand, I don't even think he missed a snap once he broke his hand. And I can't remember how long ago that was. But he broke his hand during the game and went back, got it taped up, went back in, didn't miss a single snap. Creed Humphrey has been phenomenal for this Chiefs team so far. So, you look at those 2 guys, they're great. Trey Smith, I think, has played great. He has some learning curve things that you're going to have to deal with, but he is a man in the middle of that offensive line. I think he's doing a great job. Mike Rimmers was the starter a couple of weeks ago. He got hurt. Lucas Niang came back in as starting. Then he got hurt. Now you're looking at Andrew Wiley being your right tackle, which I don't think is a good situation for Kansas City to begin with. But I do think Lucas Niang is probably the future right tackle, at least for now. But I do think that they may be looking at another left tackle next year.
So with all that being said, we talked earlier about Maxx Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue. Yannick is usually lined up against that left tackle. How much of a concern would that be for the Kansas City Chiefs coming into this game, knowing that Ngakoue and Crosby lead the team in sacks and total pressures? I mean, those two, that 1-2 punch is really productive for the Raiders. How much of a concern is that for the Chiefs?
I think it's a huge concern, but I think you can also mitigate it to an extent. One of the best things you can do against a good pass rush is if you get the ball out on time and you have a lot of timing routes, which is what Kansas City's offense is predicated around, is quick timing routes. If they can do that, I think they'll be okay, because at some point you're going to have to stop the run, which I expect Kansas City to do more of in this game. I think that they've shown that they can run the ball at least decently. It's not great, but it's decent. And I wonder if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back this week, which would also help in the running game, I think, a little bit.
Right.
But I also believe that when you start looking at, Crosby and Ngakoue going against the Chiefs' offensive line, I don't like that matchup for Orlando Brown. I think it's a horrible matchup. If Andy Reid wants to help his player, he needs to chip him with Blake Bell or Travis Kelce or any running back or a tight end or a wide receiver. Do something to at least give Orlando Brown a chance at times. And if you want to take a deep shot, then put somebody over there and have him block Ngakoue on top of Orlando Brown. I think you'll be in a better position.
So you mentioned the running game, and you mentioned Clyde Edwards-Helaire. What is the shape of the running game right now? Because I know it's been weeks on top of weeks on top of weeks. You hear analysts here, analysts there say, hey, other teams are allowing you to run the ball. They're daring you to run the ball, and you're not running it effectively. You're not running it enough. What is the state of the running game for the Chiefs? Because I'll tell you, that's a weakness in the Raiders defense.
And I think the key there is you have to realize Andy Reid is going to be Andy Reid. He's never going to run the ball 50% of the time. And analysts are going to sit there and tell you that with the boxes they're showing that he should be running the ball 50% of the time. Well, that's not Andy Reid. That's not going to be what Patrick Mahomes is going to do either. They have plays that they feel are close enough to a running play. A throw out to the flats to a running back is a running play for them. Pitching the ball. How many times have we seen Mecole Hardman or Tyreek Hill run in front of Patrick Mahomes on a shotgun snap and get a pitch that way? That's a running play, yet it goes down as a pass in the scorebook. So I think there's different ways that they can run the ball. The key there, though, is take advantage of the boxes, make the safeties come up, and then you'll be able to take some shots downfield. But again, like I said, I do think that they need to make sure that they watch for those defensive ends because they can wreck the game.
Yeah, no, they can, and they've done a good job of it so far this season for the silver and black. And got one more question as far as the Chiefs' offense goes, and then I'll flip over to the defensive side of things. Mecole Hardman, he's a guy that I've talked to you about multiple times. I just like the factor that he is, kind of the X factor that he can be. I haven't seen a whole lot from him this season. What's the status of Hardman as far as how is he progressing in his NFL career, and is he becoming that X factor that I keep thinking he's going to be?
He's not, and that's the problem. I think that you look at what we were hoping Mecole Hardman could be this season, and so far he hasn't turned out to be that guy. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the game against the Packers, but there was a huge third down play. Maybe in the third quarter, I think that Mecole Hardman got a ball that hit him right in the hands, and he dropped it. And as an NFL wide receiver, you're going to have drops. I get it. But you can't have drops in that type of situation. If you want to have a drop, at least make it something where you're at least defended. He wasn't even defended on that. That's a mental lapse. And, you look at another play earlier in the game, I believe it was in the first quarter, maybe it was in the early second quarter, where Mecole Hardman's running a deep route down the field and Mahomes unleashes the ball. And everybody's clamoring, saying the ball should have gone to Travis Kelce 20 yards down the field, and it would have been a first down and moved the chains. And they're right. But if you go back and watch the replay, you watch Mecole Hardman run this route, and he slows down at about the 30-yard line. And then he realizes, oh, wait, Mahomes might throw me the ball, and speeds up again at the 25. You can't do that. You cannot put your quarterback in that situation because he missed him by 2 yards. And if he would have been running the entire time, I'm not so sure that wouldn't have been a long touchdown.
Right.
The problem with Hardman at this point is he has like 300 yards, I believe, and one touchdown on something like he has less than 73 yards in every single game so far this year. And that's total yards from scrimmage, I believe, in every game this year. And he just isn't making the plays that we've seen from him in the past. And he's still having the same mistakes that he's had in prior years.
Right. Yeah. Well, that could be a problem. I thought he would have developed by now, and it seems like that is not happening. We're talking right now with Chris Clark, host of Locked On Chiefs here, and we're talking Chiefs Raiders as they prepare for Week 10 Sunday Night Football action. This should be fun. The defense, and the defense. That's been something that's been a conversation all year long about the struggles of the Chiefs is because they can't stop anybody. What's the state of the defense right now? It looked to me, and I know Jordan Love was the quarterback, but it looked to me like the defense was starting to make plays against the Packers a week ago.
I'm trying to reserve judgment a little bit just because you're not going to blitz Derek Carr on 52% of your drawbacks.
Right.
And that's what they did to Jordan Love. They blitzed him 52% of the time almost. And so I do think that the Chiefs defense is taking a step forward. Rashad Fenton is playing a lot better as a corner. Shavarius Ward, since coming back from injury, is playing very well. L'Jarius Sneed is playing well at corner. You finally don't have Daniel Sorensen on the field very much, so you have Juan Thornhill and Tyrann Mathieu on the back end. My biggest thing that I really wish Kansas City would figure out and Steve Spagnuolo would figure out is put Anthony Hitchens at your strong side linebacker position. Don't put Nick Bolton there. Put Bolton at middle linebacker where he showed he could make a huge difference. He went and won Rookie of the Month for October. And the second that Hitchens came back from injury, they put him right back at that position of middle linebacker. And I just cannot understand that. I think that's a problem. I think it's going to continue to be a problem because when Nick Bolton runs downhill, he's a lot better against the run in this defense. I think it's a lot better as well.
Right. No doubt, man. And the defense, again, is going to be something that obviously is going to be tested on Sunday night. Mm-hmm. And one thing I noticed, and I've kind of been in conversation about before, is Frank Clark. I like Frank Clark a lot. I think he's a heck of a player. Now, I know he's got some off-the-field issues, but I think that, he's a heck of a player. He doesn't seem like he's full throttle all the time with Kansas City, at least not this year. It seems like his motor's not running as hot as it normally does. Is there something going on with him, or am I just watching the wrong games?
I'm not going to say you are watching the wrong games, though. I will say I think the past couple of weeks we've seen the Frank Clark of old to some extent. Okay. I think you're starting to see what you saw early in the season as a guy that was dealing with a hamstring injury. He got a hamstring injury in training camp, took a couple weeks off, tried to come back, wasn't healthy, then injured the other hamstring, and I think he's finally healthy at this point. He's now played, I believe, in the last 2 games, 80% of the snaps in both games. And that's phenomenal for a guy that is somebody that usually gets after the quarterback a lot. Yes, he's not getting home. He's getting pressure. He's not getting sacks. But the pressure is really what matters. Sacks are great, don't get me wrong. But if you can pressure a quarterback, sometimes that's all you need to be able to do.
Right, absolutely. And then the rest of the Chiefs defensive line, of course, you've got Chris Jones. Obviously, he's that dude. How's he been doing, and how's the rest of the defensive line been doing?
I think you look at Chris Jones, and he's been playing defensive end for most of the season. I think we also found out a couple weeks ago that he was dealing with a torn tendon in one of his hands or his wrist, and I think that really, affected his effectiveness, I guess would be the best way to put that. And I do think that if you look at Chris Jones going forward, I think he's going to continue to play more defensive tackle because Kansas City brought in a guy named Melvin Ingram who, looking at this past week, I think has shown that he still has the ability to get after the quarterback. If they can play Chris Jones at defensive tackle and have Ingram at least give them some pressure from defensive end as well as Frank Clark, and you have Chris Jones in the middle, I think that's going to start creating pressure, and that's really going to help this defense move forward.
All right, no doubt about it. And want to wrap up with this. Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow, those are 2 guys that I always look for and expect the Raiders to use in a major way. And really, honestly, Darren Waller hasn't had a monster game since the first game of the season against the Ravens, but he's still there. He's still a factor. Yep. So what is the plan? How do you think that the Chiefs attack those 2 guys in particular, Waller and Renfrow?
I think you have to double Waller. I like, don't get me wrong, I like what Renfrow brings to the game. I think he's a fantastic wide receiver. But I think Darren Waller is really going to be the key for this defense. If you can stop the tight end, if you can put, a linebacker and a safety, or maybe even you put a corner, considering it's Darren Waller and a safety over the top to help on that, I think that you're in a much better position if you can shut him down. I think that the Chiefs have the corners to be able to lock up most of the other guys on the offense. I'm not going to say they can do it every single play, obviously, but I think that they have a much better position. They're in a much better position to win if they can get double on Darren Waller and maybe every once in a while double on Renfrow as well. Renfrow, I think if he's playing in the slot like he usually has been, I think he's going to see a lot of L'Jarius Sneed, and I do think that could be a very key matchup in this game. I'm very curious to see how it works out. Sneed has played very well at times for Kansas City, and I hope that he continues that on Sunday.
Well, I'll tell you, Hunter Renfrow is one of Derek Carr's go-to guys. Third and Renfrow is what they call him for a reason. Comes up clutch most of the time whenever Derek Carr really needs him. So that's why I kind of lump him in there. Like he's going to be a factor in a major way. And before I wrap this up and let you go, I did want to ask about your offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy. He's a guy that's been, rumored to be on the move as far as head coaching jobs for a while now and still hasn't got that nod. Do you think this offseason will be the offseason when Eric Bieniemy finally gets that shot to become a head coach somewhere in the league?
I wonder, I have to say, the past 2 years, I wonder how much the fact that he went to the Super Bowl has kept him from getting a head coaching gig. Right now, the way it looks with Kansas City, I don't think they're going to the Super Bowl, at least the way they've been playing lately. So that might help. I do think he deserves to be a head coach. I think that he has deserved to be a head coach for the past several seasons. But with the way that the NFL works and with the hiring schedule, I just don't think that it's been realistic because most of the time those coaches are getting picked before they have a chance to even get to an AFC championship or NFC championship game. So I hope that he gets a head coaching job this offseason. I really think that it would be better for the NFL if they could get to a point where they say, okay, we're not going to actually even start the hiring process for head coaches until the week after the Super Bowl or the day after the Super Bowl, because then it's fair for everybody.
I'd be okay with that. I really would. I think that would be a good thing because, again, you're right. If you go to the Super Bowl, and then and you're asking a lot too. And even if you give them the first couple weeks or whatever to be able to interview maybe on a Saturday, then they're taking away from what they're doing, for that game. They're taking away time for planning. So yeah, if they just waited, because they don't have to hire him right away. If they just waited till after the Super Bowl, like you said, even a day after the Super Bowl, that would be okay with me as well. Well, Chris, I'm excited about the game on Sunday, man. The 5-4 Chiefs headed to Vegas, 5-3 Raiders. Should be a heck of a matchup. Fans in the stands. I know Kansas City fans will travel. I know Raider Nation is going to be there. It should be electric, and I'm looking forward to see how it shakes out. And then, oh, by the way, we get to do it all over again. We get to talk about it again later on in the season as the Raiders will travel to Kansas City. So it should be a lot of fun, man. I look forward to the game and hope you enjoy it.
Hey, man, I hope you enjoy it too, Q. I really appreciate it. Really enjoyed this episode. And I would love to say good luck to you on Sunday. I really probably wouldn't mean it. But I do think that this could be a really good game. And I am excited because it looks like the AFC West has the opportunity to be a division that we remember from, the 90s when it was every single team in the AFC West was a challenge for everybody.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. I mean, everybody's knotted up at 5, man. I would love for it to go down to the final week of the season and see how it all shakes out. So it's great, man. It's great having the competition and the parity that the league has right now, at least the AFC side of things. So yeah, it should be fun. And like I said, man, definitely enjoy the game. And we're going to do it again anyway. So it should be fun.
All right, sounds good, man. And I will talk to you guys later. And thank you all for listening. We will be back tomorrow and enjoy this week.